Welcome, bienvenidos to another edition of Black and Azul, our first live edition coming to you from the studio. My name is Charles Wollin. He is Joel Soria. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing excellent, yeah. Glad to be here, first time doing this live shoot, and I'm super thrilled to interact with everyone.
Absolutely. We're not your 11 o'clock news, but we're very close. We're like your 11:02, 11:03 o'clock news. The Quakes drawing in Seattle tonight had a 2-0 lead, looked extremely convincing. Didn't really ever look like they were ever going to lose. Seattle countered them in the second half with 2 goals of their own in a span of 2 minutes. Kind of your instant snap reaction.
Yeah, well, 2 goals in 2 minutes. Things really didn't go well for the Quakes in those final 20 minutes, right? They got the first goal off the corner set piece goal. The ball kind of slid through 4 or 5 Quakes defenders. Shea Salinas mismarked, leered him a bit. He got in the back of the net. And then after that, Schmetzer just really told his players, let's press. They pressed up tight. They were forcing the ball in the Quakes' first third. And then through another set piece, inbound pass, ball kind of was chiming around in there in the box. And with a beautiful strike, though, from Harry Shipp. You can't take that away from them. Yeah. They really played exceptional in the last 25 minutes. And, they walked away with a point. And the Quakes walked away with a vital point that, to me, tastes a lot like a victory. A point away in Seattle. It's not an easy place to play. And given, the Earthquakes history, prior to the game against Sporting Kansas City, things weren't going all so well. And now it seems like we're seeing a rejuvenated Earthquakes. And speaking of rejuvenated, Shea Salinas, playing out of his skin, 4 goals in 5 games that he's started, leading the Earthquakes in goals scored. What a fantastic season he's having.
Yeah, I kind of tweeted out after he scored his first goal. I think he's going to have at least 10 to 15. I might push that to 15 to 20 under this manager. It's just the way that he cuts in from the left onto his favored right foot. That the crosses are going to come in from Espinoza, low and on the ground. You have the main striker, you have the attacking midfield player behind him, and you have the left-sided winger in Shea Salinas. And he seems to be the guy at the moment right now, and also wearing the captain's armband. It's a kind of a rejuvenational moment for him, and I think he's enjoying his time. He's taking his chances well, and also he was at left back before, so now he's at left mid, and that's his spot now. He's untouchable.
Traditionally, he's a right mid player, but he can play on either flank. And let's take in consideration this is his 12th season, right? So he's an MLS veteran. He knows how the league works, but opposing players should also know how Shea Salinas plays. He has this really repetitive motion when he goes at defenders, but one way or another, he seems to get by with his burning speed. And, we saw that goal. I was telling you, he has that itch to get really, really inside the box, inside the final 3 yards, and try to look inside and play the ball in. He's not really an individualistic player, right? But in this specific play, he just convinced himself, like he said to us media members after the game against Sporting Kansas City. He says he has the confidence to score and he wants to score goals. And Matias Almeida has also made that very clear, that he wants Shea Salinas to be a threat, and he did just that. He was a bit unselfish there, brilliant finish, and he's having a fantastic season. I don't think anyone expected this from Shea Salinas, and no one's really expected this game from the Earthquakes. They went to Seattle, like I said before, and they had a convincing 75-90 minutes.
Well, I heard the interview that Ted Ramey, the Earthquakes radio broadcaster, did with Shea Salinas in the car on the way down as a preview to this match. And Shea was talking about how none of the players are complaining to one another. They just look at each other. They're working as hard as they can, and there's no complaints whatsoever. He said this is the hardest training that they've ever had. And when they went to Mexico for preseason training, they were running by the beach, but they never actually went to the beach, really, or got in the water. And so that's kind of a testament to Matias Almeida keeping these guys well-balanced, in a good tempo, and well-tempered. If you guys are tuning into this broadcast, you can chat with us on the side. We'll take a couple of questions as well. If you want to send us some emojis,
hit the like button.
Absolutely. That's also
Subscribe.
fun, too. We do have our first question. Let's just jump into that right now. The question is from Ren. Ren writes, "What's up with Vako?" What do you think is up with Vako? I just don't think he's in the side right now. He's just not being picked. He's not being picked because Magnus Eriksson has mastered that position. We'll talk tactics about that in a second, but I want to hear what Joel has to say about it.
Well, I think Vako surely hasn't convinced Matias Almeida enough that he should be the starter in that 10 role. He was playing a bit of the left mid where Shea Salinas is playing now, but week in and week out, you know, he's just not the type of player that really fits El Pelado's ethos, right? The player that runs all game and to every direction, and that just really poaches and tries to poach the ball as much as possible. And he's not, I mean, it hurts saying this, but he's not a team player. You know, Vako is very individualistic. He's a bit lethargic on the field. He's shown that time and time again. When Stare and Leach and even Ralston were coaching this side, they really didn't have you know, the comfortable, you know, they weren't in that comfortable position to say, you know what, let's sit Vako, right? Let's sit him because he isn't really showing determination on the field. And now with Matias, who has so much experience and also as a player and as a coach, and really just understands the player's mind, I think he can really read through Vako, and he knows what his intentions are. That's not to say that Vako doesn't necessarily care all that much about the Quakes or about his team or about his performances, but he doesn't see that spark, that twinkle that he sees in the other players' eyes.
I think one of the things that you just mentioned there, I think one of the things I haven't seen is Vako's fitness level being the rest of the others. And
well, he's not a runner, that's for sure.
Yeah, but neither is Magnus Eriksson. However, it seems to me, from a tactical analysis point of view, in the number 10 position, the attacking midfield position, just behind the striker, in front of the two defensive mids, or, you know, one defensive mid, responsibility for Magnus Eriksson, but he's doing a little bit of it anyway, and they almost cut the field into little phases for him so he can kind of get into these little zones. Yeah. And it happens with a player that's a little slower playing in that 10 position. With Magnus, you're also not going to get the, you know, lots of step overs and all sorts of magic with the ball at his feet. It's very simple. He's got a nice touch, but he'll also find his teammates, and he's a smart player. Compared to, I mean, Vako is a smart player as well, but he's got a lot of step overs and a little different type of flair than Magnus Eriksson. It's kind of where I see it, you know?
Yeah. Very individualistic. And also, it doesn't help that Vako doesn't like to speak to media. I mean, he's a very reserved, quiet guy. You know, he does go out there and he does his job day in and day out. No excuses, but that doesn't play in his favor, you know? Matias likes the personalities. He likes the fighter on the field. He likes the runner. He likes the player who will leave it all out for his players and for himself. And you know, we haven't seen that from Vako, and he hasn't been known for that even during his time in Holland. I remember when Vako first arrived in San Jose, the comments from all the Vitesse fans were like, "Oh, you guys have, you know, San Jose just earned another lazy player on the field." And I mean, lazy isn't the right word here. It's a bit too harsh, but he does come across as a player who's not willing to go the extra mile, and that's what Matias Almeida needs at the moment. Vako isn't doing that, and he wasn't really creating any chances under his system as well, which is crucial, and that's what should come first and foremost. So he decides to go with Shea, and Shea has paid dividends, and now you have Magnus, who's interpreting that number 10 role adequately.
We've got Ty Tech, and he writes, "Where was Tommy Thompson? Also, given another game in a few days, do you have any ideas about squad rotation versus Dallas?"
So I believe Tommy Thompson did travel with the team. I am unsure why he did not play. Aníbal Godoy did not travel with the team, and he is expected to travel to Dallas in the coming days to meet with the team there. I personally do believe there's going to be some tinkering in the lineup. I don't think most of these players are fit enough to play 90 minutes, 3 times in a week's time. That's a pretty grueling schedule, right? And we saw Danny Husen last game against Sporting Kansas City. After 75, he was done. Paul Marie as well, who earned his first MLS start. Hats off to him. Around the 75th minute, he was cramping up. Like we mentioned this, and I think everyone knows this as well. Almeida's style is very demanding physically.
Yeah,
it's a physically demanding style that really just calls for the players to keep the engine going full throttle all 90 minutes. And that's why players like Jutsen really fit the mold there, right? The guy can go 90, 95, maybe 130, 125 minutes without ever stopping. So I do believe there will be some changes, probably not as drastic as before, maybe something similar to what we saw today where maybe 2 or 3 players join the mix, and some will obviously will have to come out, but that's what I expect for the game against Dallas.
Aaron Sholl writes, what can the Quakes do to clamp down better defensively? They seem to get early leads and blow it. I'll take the beginning of this question. I've seen significant improvement in the back line over the last couple of weeks. The reason being is just those group of players are more comfortable playing out of the back. Maybe they were not always used to playing out of the back as they do. And when I mean that, I mean the 2 outside backs are almost asked to play as wingers. And if they're not asked to play as wingers, they're asked to slide in and play as a center back when one center back is stepping up to make a tackle in the center of the park, or they're asked to kind of jet into a defensive midfield position once in a while, and that's a very, very once in a while. But sometimes when you see the Earthquakes build out of the back, you see the 2 center backs split to the outside of the 18 almost as their 2 outside backs, and our 2 outside backs are pushed way up high. And so in terms of what I've seen defensively already against Sporting KC, I thought they were compact. I thought they understood what they were doing out of the back. I think the partnership the 2 center backs is terrific, and I think they're kind of on their way. I think it's a little lapse of concentration with the Seattle match just now.
Exactly.
I think there's a little lapse of concentration, but those are learning curves.
Minute details.
Those can be fixed.
They definitely could be fixed, like we mentioned, and I think everyone knows this. Offset pieces, minute, deficiencies that caused them those 2 goals. Because I think collectively, overall, the defense held pretty good. Seattle did have a couple opportunities here and there, but so did the Quakes. And when the Sounders imposed themselves on the Earthquakes, Vega was there as a lifeline, who's done a stellar job, by the way. So it's just those small little details that have cost the Quakes points. Specifically in this case, it cost them 2 points, which would have been huge, don't get me wrong. But I think with time, they'll be able to fix that. And Almeida has alluded to that as well. As the time goes on, he feels a lot more comfortable with the way the players are executing his style, defensively and offensively. I think he mentions the defense a little more than he does the offense, because he feels like the offense is really a threat more often than not. But on the defensive end, it's just the small details that have cost the Quakes points, and I think with time they'll be able to correct those.
And another thing is the fact that you saw Harold Cummings and Florian Youngworth win the ball very high in almost a defensive midfield position, higher up on the field, and continue to play and to pass the ball from that specific position out wide, and almost having 3 in the back at one point sometimes. And so just taking a look at that, they're very aggressive, the center backs. They'll win the ball very quickly, and when they do, they'll dish it out wide or up top to the target man, usually Danny Husen. So I have seen significant improvement.
Florian with the ball is comfortable. He with Darmstadt in Germany for many years. He played as a six, as a defensive midfielder. So there's no doubt that he's a proven player with the ball at his feet. Cummings, on the other hand, hasn't really had that opportunity, right, to have the ball at his feet. And I think as the weeks go on, he looks a little more poised, a bit more calm
Absolutely.
on the ball, and he's willing to really play it from the back, which is good, positive, because there was a lot of questioning of Harold Cummings' play, especially including from me. I wasn't thoroughly convinced the first couple of weeks that he was going to make a week in and week out starter at that position.
Yeah, and usually with center back combos, you usually have one player that's very, very good in the air, almost your brute force defender, and then another defender alongside that player that's good with the ball, with their feet, out of the back, extremely comfortable, can take people on 1v1, etc. But now modern football is changing so much that you almost have to have both and have hybrids with both, and how you mix and match with those two types of players. And we talked about center back combos on the last episode, but it is important to always remember that the center back positions are always a combo, and how they complement each other, how they work with each other, and how they work with the goalkeeper and the two outside backs as well. Remember, you guys can comment, give us some questions, any feedback as well, right here on this page. We only have one or two more questions to go here, so keep asking us some questions. You can even ask us, why I'm having a bad hair day. I don't even know why Wando's not here.
You decapitated him.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Those
bobbleheads are very fragile indeed. But let's talk about Danny Hoesen for a few minutes. Danny Hoesen scored 2 goals against Sporting KC. Really nice taken goals, balls over the top. He split both center backs of Sporting. He was through in on goal. And, he had to do more than just kind of wriggle his way. It wasn't just an easy tap in. But, the guy has found his shooting boots. He is the clear starting striker for this team. And he's coming into his own. And we're only a few matches into Danny Hoesen playing every game. Because remember, he got his green card. And so it took a few matches for him to start.
Yeah, the whole green card situation, as Almeida said, and as we interpreted it as well, really harmed him right at the start of the season. It really held him back from training. It didn't allow him to get in the mix. He fixed that. He corrected that. He's now, a permanent residence, and now he is scoring goals, not permanently, but he's getting there. And he did that last year as well, though. He scored 12 goals. He was a team MVP. There is no questioning Danny Hoesen's abilities within the league. I think, personally, he is the most technical striker in this league. Amazing footwork, does really well holding up the ball at the top of the field, and really just allows either Salinas or Christian to come in on either flank and gives the Earthquakes a plethora of opportunities, right, in the attacking third. And he's doing great. He's doing it with such poise. Danny Hoesen's just a player that you look at him and he does it so effortlessly.
Yeah. He
could be, kind of in the as a contender for that golden boot if he were to finish a bit more frequently. But aside from that, he's done a terrific job as well.
And he gets in those wide areas, as you said, and allows some of the wingers to get into a more central forward position. And he's good 1v1 too as a center forward.
Yeah, he's risky.
Yeah, we were watching him tonight.
He's daring.
At the Britannia Arms downtown. Sorry, we'll send you guys the invite next time.
Brit.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Brit. That's how you know way better than me.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were watching him. Plenty of step overs, trying to get past his last defender. Why not?
Yeah, he's definitely a handful, and he was a handful today for the Sounders. Unfortunately, that he wasn't able to get on the score sheet, but I think for the weeks to come, he's going to be a vital piece to Almeida's success with the team.
Let's talk about Jackson Ewell as well, enjoying a fine run of form in the side. This is a guy that's probably second or third on the team sheet at this point in central midfield, and now Matias Almeida is going to have selection headaches.
Which is good.
Which is good. We want to see that, and that's important. I think they probably need another center mid coming up here in the summer. as well. We'll get to. There's a good question here about what players the team should add, but Jackson Ewell is having his best run of form too, along with Shea Salinas, along with Danny Houston, along with Daniel Vega. I mean,
Cristian Espinosa.
absolutely, yeah. So these are good times, good players right now for the San Jose Earthquakes. But Jackson.
Yeah, Jackson's, I guess, reappearance into the Earthquakes talk has been just as exciting as the turnaround that the team is going through, right? As soon as Jackson was integrated into the team, the Earthquakes just turned the page completely. And, you know, like Jackson, he's brought in this new sense of hope, right? Where you look at this player, he's only 21 years of age. Sky's the limit for him, I think. He's getting into the U.S. men's national team, or youth under 23 U.S. men's national team mix. Could potentially play in the Tokyo 2020 games. And he has a really, really high ceiling, in my opinion. I know there's plenty of pundits who cover MLS who are high on Jackson Ewell. One of those being obviously the great Matt Doyle, huge on Jackson Ewell, and deservingly so. I mean, Jackson is not the flashiest player. You know, he's not a revolutionary player at all. He's subtle, but he's really intelligent. I really love his intelligence on the field. I've said this before, but you know, it seems like he has like 5 eyes. You know, he can see everything on the field. He can you know, pick out a pass, you know, 5 seconds before it needs to be done. He can precisely put a ball on anyone's plate, and you know, he has the ability to play with both feet. He's a complete midfielder, a complete 8. I like them with Godoy a bit more than with Judson, in my opinion. I think the Earthquakes were really missing Godoy today at the stretch of the game. But you know, it's a selection headache. So it's better to have that problem than to be, you know, searching and digging for replacements.
Jackson, as you said, does everything very classically simple. He knows when to pick a good pass. He's enjoying the box-to-box central midfield role. He's very intelligent, you know, as well. So he's kind of stamped his mark within this side. Got a couple of assists, you know, to his name. Let's take a question here from
let's get these questions.
Ever Martinez, and he writes, "What type of player would you add to this current team with their form?"
Wow, that's a tough question. I mean, I'm sure Jesse and Co have a long list of players that they might want to bring in. I wouldn't be surprised if the Earthquakes probably looked for, I don't know, maybe another center back, maybe a real playmaker, someone who could potentially play that number 10 role the way that Matias really wants to play. Because I feel like Magnus Eriksson for now is more of papers over the cracks. Maybe in the long term he'll want to bring someone with an actual name, someone who will attract attention, someone who he's managed before, someone who can really, you know, post 15 goals, 10 assists a season a la Carlos Vela. I don't know. Maybe he's looking for something like that. I wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think another center back to add to that mix to give some competition to the rest of those lads back there, because technically there's only 3 of them that have actually
Jimmy
played.
Ockford and Francois Fulcher have been missing completely.
Yeah, and having a kind of another attacking midfield player to play in that 10 role that maybe is a little quicker.
I was going to say a left midfielder or a left winger, but Shea Salinas is doing it.
Yeah,
He's doing it well
I
right
would
now.
say,
He's not living with many options.
Yeah, I'd say probably another winger as well. I mean, it's worth having 4 wingers on a team for 2 positions.
Well, it
to
depends
fight.
what happens with Espinosa as well, because he gave an interview and said that he does not have an option to buy, or the Earthquakes don't have an option to purchase after his loan, which, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that the way that MLS goes, the ways it's written in the rule book, is that if a player does have a loan in MLS, there's always a purchase or an option to buy, right? But he said there isn't, so I wonder what's going on there. I'll try to get to the bottom of it. But yeah, it really depends if Espinosa is going to stay after this season. If he's not, then they sure need to bring a replacement that is going to play up to his level.
Shout out to Anai Patel. Ola back. Shout out back to Tech with a nice little emoji smiley face. Back to you as well. Tech will answer your question. How was Paul Marie's defense tonight? Is he another natural winger repurposed as a fullback? Great question, by the way.
No, I recall specifically the moment when I first interacted with Paul Marie, and it was minutes after he was drafted by the San Jose Earthquakes 2 years ago, I believe. And I asked him the question, which professional player do you mirror yourself to? And he said, maybe a Marcelo or a Dani Alves. And those are natural fullbacks, right? They're a bit more...
And they're pretty good, too.
Yeah, they're pretty good, too. Yeah. I mean, he was putting the bar
and
up
why
there
not?
pretty high.
Why
not? I mean...
Those are nice idols to have. Great mentors, yeah.
They're attack-oriented. They've been known for being attack-oriented fullbacks, but, you know, they're not wingers. So Paul Marie is a natural. I think for Florida International, though, I don't think he played as a fullback. So it could be that, or he might have played as a fullback but also played a different position. I'm not entirely sure. Paul Marie is not a player with a big legacy behind him. So, you know, there's not a whole lot. There's not a whole lot on him, but I thought he did all right. Subpar average performance.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the positive thing about Paul Marie, though, was that he held his ground. Because a lot of the times you see these newcomers come in and be exposed right off the bat. He didn't suffer. You know, he didn't have an agonizing 95 minutes. I thought he did it well. I mean, he didn't do it extremely well. He did it average, and you know, he held his ground. And at the end of the day, I don't think any of the goals were due to his mistakes.
I think in this league, if you're going to play in the fullback position, you have to be an attacking fullback. And in fact, when you're playing, you know, international football, more modern football, most fullbacks are attacking fullbacks because most coaches want to play out of the back now, and they want their fullbacks to hug the two lines and move up and almost be those secondary wingers. I thought Paul Marie was also solid and quite average tonight, and I think that Matias Almeida wanted to maybe try him out and see, you know, if there's another outside back in his ranks, give Tommy Thompson a little rest, because Tommy and Nick Lima and Marco Lopez, when he gets back and when he's ready to come back into the side, when Matias lets him, those guys, those four are probably the core four fullbacks for this side.
Yeah, and Marie has been waiting, right? He's been pretty patient in the sideline, played a little bit with Reno, impressed there. At least he impressed me. And now he's finally got his time. And, you know, he had an average showing. Like I said, he didn't struggle. He did things, the small things the right way. He wasn't, you know, the red flag. He wasn't the sore thumb in the room. You know, he did it all right.
Alicio Sandoval, it is your turn. You write, in your guys' opinion, was tonight 2 points lost or 1 point gained? I think it's 1 point gained. Although I thought the Quakes could have had 3 points this evening. 1 point gained is great against the Seattle team on the road, soaking up a lot of pressure in the first 15 to 20 minutes, and then having a good run of play for about 40, 50 minutes and scoring 2 goals where they hit the woodwork 2 times in the second half and scored in the first 7 minutes of the second half as well after having that nice 1-0 lead from Shea. So I think it's 1 point gained. You know, you got to win all your matches at home. They smashed Portland. They smashed Sporting Kansas City with big score lines. They go on the road. They got the point. I think those are important things, and I think these are things that Matias Almeida is instilling in this team. When you go on a road, it's okay to pick up points. It's okay to, you know, drop a couple too. At home is where you really got to get a bulk of the points as well. The road wins will come for this team, but in my opinion, point gained.
Yeah, I have to echo on that. Beggars cannot be choosers. The Earthquakes were looking for their first point in almost a year on the road, and they got that. You know, yes, people can say they were up 2-0. You know, they conceded 2 goals in 2 minutes. They should have held their own. They should have, you know, eked out a good result, a positive result, aka 3 points on the road. But look, in the final 20 minutes, Schmetzer's side really started imposing themselves on the Quakes. And if it wasn't for Vega, then this probably could have been a loss for the Earthquakes, which would have been detrimental, I believe, to the confidence that this team is starting to build. They're finally starting to climb up the ladder a little bit. They're starting to believe each other. There's a good harmony, within the locker room. There's a good harmony, within the walls of Avaya Stadium. I think this is a good point. I think, going to Seattle, like I said before, like going to Portland, is not an easy task at all. You're playing an artificial turf.
It's very quick.
It's very quick. The Earthquakes are obviously not used to that. They don't train on artificial turf. The Sounders always draw good numbers. It's a tight, ferocious atmosphere. They were able to conserve that draw, and they were also able to create chances when they were pinned back. So I think, all in all, it's a draw that tastes like a victory.
Last question of the night. It goes to SR20. I'm not sure your name, but I'll just call you SR20. That's fine. What place do you see the Earthquakes getting this season? I know you're pretty firm on this, but why don't you reiterate your point?
Sure. I've said it all along. Alex, our colleague, had him for dead after, what was it, 2 weeks, I believe? 3 weeks?
I think it was about 4 weeks.
Don't get me wrong. We've been
Yeah.
constructively critical of this team, right? I think rightfully so as well. And yes, we have banged on the team time and time again, but I personally believe that the Earthquakes are going to contest for that 6th and 7th spot in the West. It's not asking for much, Making playoffs in this league is not really asking for much, especially when half of the teams make it into the playoffs. I think they're going to be there, but in order to get there, they're going to need to get the summer signings done correctly.
Yeah. And make a couple trades as well, if they can.
If they can, they're going to shed a couple of players.
Absolutely,
I think Almeida and Fiorelli have made that pretty clear, or at least Almeida has. The players who aren't convincing him now are going to see the door sometime in the summertime. I don't know how it's going to work out. It's going to be a bit of magic, I guess, that he's finally going to pull out that wand he said he never had. And he's going to make it happen. He's going to have to bring in a couple of DPs as well, because this team is in dire need of a couple of game changers, of a couple geniuses, I guess you can say, and of a couple household names. So, but if they do get those things right, there's no reason why this team, with the current squad that they have, shouldn't be a playoff team.
I don't feel like tonight they ever looked like they were going to lose until maybe the last 5 or 10, where you really had to kind of bite your tongue and strap up your seatbelt a little bit, if you know what I mean. But I agree with you. I think they'll be competing for that 6th, 7th spot as well. It may be an echo chamber in here. Don't worry. You are watching episode number 10 of Black and Azul. We appreciate everybody for tuning in this evening. All of your comments, all of your questions have really been terrific. And thanks for helping us build a culture and build our show. Very grateful tonight alongside Joel Soria. My name is Charles Wollin. We will see you next week.
Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, and keep those questions coming. We're always open for it.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. Cheers.